People who dated a porn star. What was it like? Back in the mid-90s, I had a job at an upscale strip club, their words. They regularly hosted feature acts, most of whom were active performers in adult films. One weekend, I was tasked with being the handler for one, pick her up from the airport, drive her to her hotel or wherever she wanted, get her to the club, etc. This particular woman was at the height of her popularity, had a bunch of movies, was a big name in the industry. Picked her up Thursday evening, she was exhausted and wanted sit-down dinner, so I made a few recommendations and she picked one. Said she hated eating alone in strange places, so I joined her. When I dropped her off at her hotel, I walked her to her door and she acted like she expected me to try to come up with an excuse to come in, but I just wished her good night and told her to call me when she wanted me to pick her up. I didn't expect to hear from her until it was time to go to the club, but she called in the morning because she wanted to go shopping, so I took her shopping. Then she asked if I had a gym membership somewhere because the hotel gym was disappointing. So I told her she could be my guest. I asked if she was okay with stopping by my apartment so I could get workout clothes, and she was cool with it. It was weird having this porn superstar in my apartment, commenting on my fake Patrick Nagel and Bev Doolittle prints, posters in decent frames. She said I was possibly the only white guy in America under 35 who didn't have a Scarface poster framed like it's the fucking Mona Lisa. We went to the gym, and then I took her back to her room, where she made it clear she wanted me to come in. We ended up in the shower together and fooling around until she decided she wanted dinner before going to the club. She was a hit, obviously. She asked me to spend the night after I drove her back. She looked almost sad when she said, "Please don't try to f me like we're making a movie." She called it romance novel sex. She was big into dim light, candlelight, and sticking to face-to-face positions with lots of kissing. We ended up spending every moment she wasn't on stage together acting like a real couple. We exchanged emails, mid-90s, no cell phones, and maintained a long-distance relationship for over a year. Every chance she got, she came out to my city and got to be my girlfriend instead of everybody else's girlfriend. The industry really wrecked her mental health, self-esteem in the early years, and the way she acted with me, it felt like I might be one of the only guys who didn't see the porn star. She loved that I asked about her job like it was a regular job. She loved telling me about drama gossip. She let me hold her while she sobbed about being sexually assaulted by a male performer at some industry thing. Eventually, the romance-intimate relationship became too difficult to maintain, and eventually the communication slowed. We would email, just much less frequently. She got married to a guy she is still with. I did get a pretty unhinged or sobbing phone call out of the blue when I emailed her and told her I was deploying to Afghanistan. A couple of friends of hers with FDNY had died on September 11th, and she was having an absolute meltdown. Her husband actually took the phone from her and apologized to me, but I assured him it was cool and that I would happily check in frequently to let them both know I was okay. Eventually, all communication just fizzled out. I wonder if she even remembers our little whirlwind. Edit 1. Holy forking shirt balls. 39K upvotes. My wife is laughing her ass off. If you don't like a lot of attention, I don't. Why did you tell Reddit about the time you were an adult star's Prince Charming? My wife also understands why I'm very hesitant to reach out, but she trusts that if I ever did, it would not be in the interest of rekindling. 4. I didn't have current info on her or her husband, but I reached out to one of her former colleagues who actually remembered hearing about me and still keeps up with her from time to time. They are back in the US, and she and her husband have been encouraged to reach out to me if they feel like it. They have my contact info and my social media. I guess we'll see what happens. Final edit. She reached out to me on social media. By reached out, I mean she bombed everything on my IG and TikTok and sent me friend requests on everything and a very sweet and happy message talking about her and her family. Her oldest kid graduating from college, her younger kid graduating HS and about to start college. She recognized the backgrounds in some of my photos and videos of places we went together. She gushed over my wife's appearance and her unmatched skills in the areas of costume design and construction. She told me she wanted to meet as soon as it was practical for everyone involved. She told me how her old studio recently tried to get her to come back and do MILF porn, and how she told them to go f themselves, since the individual who assaulted and tried to rape her still worked for them. She told me that she's actually very close with a couple of her old colleagues who have also retired and done their best to become nobodies. The story has a genuinely happy ending. Many years ago, probably 2007 to 2008-ish if my math is right, I started dating a stripper in college. I learned that until very recently, she lived in California, in a place she called Porn Valley. If I'm remembering correctly, it was San Fernandino. She did porn there for a while right after high school, made a respectable amount of money, and moved to the East Coast to go to college. Dating her was a wild experience. I constantly felt like I was on the verge of being replaced. She did whatever she wanted, whenever the whim struck her, and I could tell she was always probing me for insecurity, which I simply didn't have. Despite all that, she wasn't demanding at all, and she paid for everything and would get mildly annoyed if I snuck a check or paid for something behind her back. The sex wasn't good. She had zero desire to please anyone but herself, but would get irritated if I finished and couldn't perform after, despite her never continuing after she got hers. She was incredibly conceited and would basically only talk about herself. One day, she didn't show up to the coffee shop we were supposed to meet at to study, and her phone was off. Cell phones were relatively new and people treated them differently, so I wasn't worried. So I went to her apartment. When she answered the door, AM saw me, she just went, "Oh, sorry, I'm seeing someone else." When I asked for details, she just kinda shrugged her shoulders and said she needed to go. I later saw her walking with some Turbo Ultra Beefcake, and for the next year or so, would often see her upgrade to another dude. We had one class together a semester later, and she legitimately might have forgotten my name. Really glad I wasn't emotionally invested in that one. Edit. Hey guys, this is a lot of attention, so I'll just add that, although it took a while, I'm happily married with children to someone I'm super emotionally invested in. Love you guys who had a similar experience. You're kings and queens in my eyes. Edit 2. Got it? San Fernando Valley. Haha. Dated a girl when I was 19. She was wild, complete opposite of me, and taught me a lot about just not giving a poster child for social bravery. She always said I was the nicest person she had ever been with, but she had a rough life. Her dad was a Scientologist, and she'd tell me about the men in the church who would pass her around as a kid. The reason I get hostile when Scientologists try to talk to me on the street. In terms of the sex, one night she was on top of me. The room was dark, my hands on her hips, when I felt this sudden hot stinging feeling on my chest. The light switch was right above me, so I turned it on. This insane woman pulled out a razor blade and cut me while riding me. I told her to stop and kept going because duh. And she did it again. Her taste for extremes was her downfall. She left me for her abusive ex. He put her in the hospital soon after, got her on heroin, forced her into porn, and she had a career for a few years where she was one of the up-and-comers to watch or whatever. We kept in contact, but it was mostly whenever she was down on her luck and needed to talk. She got out of the industry, got clean, had a kid, and a year later relapsed and died. We only dated for a summer, but the impact she had on me, a socially awkward, anxiety-filled kid, is something I think about almost every day. I always think about her kid and hope she only got the best of her mom. Edit. This got a lot of attention, and some people were able to point out who she was. I'd prefer people remember her at her best as a clean mother who loved her kid. Here's a little video of her I found after her passing.
How to make sure your child doesn't defy you. Hey! Don't defy me. See? She's not defying me.
Went on a few dates with one. First time we met, she wanted to meet at her place. She asked me to bring some shawarma, so I did. She has zero makeup on, not dressed up at all, and KSPT things non-sexual. The second time I picked her up and we went out clubbing in West Hollywood. This time she was well dressed up, makeup done, looked stunning. We had a great time and went back to her place. We had amazing sex, but not porn sex, if that makes sense. The next day she did an interview for, I think, Playboy Radio on SXM. They asked her about dating and she mentioned our date last night. I got a shout out, not by name, by what we did, and she noted she had a great time and was taking it slow. The hosts were all like, "Aw." We went one more time after that for dinner and drinks. But then, I don't recall exactly what happened, but she just got more busy. Suddenly I was ghosted. It turns out that she moved to Vegas on a whim. She told me she needed a break and cut all her social. Years later, it seems she reactivated her social. She told me he left the industry and was trying to be legit and love a quiet life. She did a bit of work after, I guess for extra money, but mostly she seemed to be wanting a regular life. All her sexy social content was gone, and even images of herself were reduced. That last time was several years ago. She was always sweet and nice to me, but sadly, there was something broken off deep down inside. I could sense it, but I could also tell she really wanted to move past that, and I think her dating regular people and leaving the industry was a part of that process. I sincerely hope she found true happiness and peace. Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watch other videos.